We begin today with the continued fallout between the United States and the European Union over allegations that the U.S. has been spying on its closest allies. German officials have confirmed that the EU is now mulling over sanctions on the U.S. government. These sanctions would impede the U.S. government's access to a law enforcement tool mainly used to track the flow of money associated with terrorism. But it seems the international leaks that incited this action are far from over. Journalist Glenn Greenwald now says there are many more ahead.
We're working as fast as we can to make sure that all of these documents get reported in every single country where there are documents for it, which is most countries in the world. And what we've seen in Brazil and Germany and France and India and now Spain, of course in the United States, is going to repeat itself continuously for the next several weeks or months in almost every country around the world.
Here in Washington, the tone took a very serious turn as Senator Dianne Feinsteinn, a vocal NSA supporter, called out the agency. She said, "With respect to the NSA collection of intelligence on leaders of U.S. allies, let me state unequivocally, I am totally opposed. I do not believe the United States should be collecting phone calls or emails of friendly presidents and prime ministers." Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, the House Intelligence Committee is holding a hearing to discuss the role of FISA in the surveillance of American citizens. Now, FISA, or the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, is the piece of legislation that sets guidelines for the NSA's bulk collection of foreign intelligence information. This is the committee's second open hearing since former government contractor Edward Snowden leaked detailed information about how the programs operate back in June. In a statement, a House panel spokesperson said the hearing was in place to, quote, assess a number of proposals to improve transparency and strengthen privacy protections to further build the confidence of the American public in our nation's FISA programs. So to talk about this hearing and the latest on the NSA, I'm joined now by RT's Sam Sachs, who is live at the Capitol. Sam, the hearing was supposed to consider a number of proposals. Can you talk about what those proposals entail?
Sure. Good to be with you, Amira. So just to recap, the FISA court is this top secret court that we're told provides the oversight over a lot of the NSA's surveillance programs, including the bulk metadata collection program. So the NSA has to go to this court to get a lot of these court orders. Problem is, nobody knows what really goes on inside this court. A lot of the court opinions are classified. There's only one, it's not an adversarial court. There's only one arguer, and it's from the government, and they go to the judges to get information. There's no one representing the privacy of the individual who the government is trying to get information about. So today's hearing was all about how to bring more transparency to this court and reforms to this court. And a number of ideas were brought up, such as a process for declassifying the court's opinion to give members of Congress some more insight into what's going on here. There was an idea to install a privacy advocate within the court who would argue on behalf of civil liberties concerns, on behalf of privacy, against the government lawyer in these top secret court proceedings. And there's another proposal on the table to restrict Section 215 of the Patriot Act, the business records provision, which the court has given the NSA the authority to scoop up all our phone metadata that the NSA has been, the programs that have been revealed by Edward Snowden here. And the NSA kind of ruffled at that. General Keith Alexander, who's the chief of the NSA, said that getting rid of the Section 215 of the Patriot Act could put the country at a risk and leave the United States open to another terrorist attack. So they weren't really open to that reform in particular. Some of the other reforms they said they were open to.
And Sam, what's the likelihood that we'll actually see some kind of change come out of this hearing?
Well, there is a pretty good likelihood, I'd say. It's important to remember that a lot of these individual FISA court reforms are incorporated into broader NSA reform bills that have been introduced. And when it comes to the chances of these bills passing, there's bipartisan support, which is something that's unusual around Congress here. Bipartisan support to move these. And this was something that Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky said today at the hearing. Here's a clip.
The two individuals who wrote, one Republican, one Democrat, one Republican, one Democrat, who wrote the USA Patriot Act shortly after 9/11, have now introduced the USA Freedom Act that essentially would repeal many of the aspects and change them. of the Patriot Act.
And she's referring, Congresswoman Schakowsky's referring to Congressman Jim Sensenbrenner's USA Freedom Act. And Sensenbrenner, of course, wrote the Patriot Act. Now, the Freedom Act repeals a lot of the Patriot Act. It installs that special privacy advocate on the FISA court that we talked about earlier, and it restricts Patriot Act Section 215, the bulk metadata collection program. And it has support from Republicans and Democrats are on board with it. And it has a companion bill that was introduced in the Senate by a Democrat, Senator Patrick Leahy. So it looks like with this bipartisan nature, it looks like something will get passed when it comes to the NSA. It'll be passed in a standalone bill or maybe something added to the National Defense Authorization Act at the end of the year, which still needs to be worked out. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be really meaningful reform or more watered down reform of the NSA.
We'll have to wait and see. But of course, the latest NSA leaks have centered on the U.S. government spying of world leaders. Did members of Congress or intelligence officials speak to that issue at all?
Yeah, they spoke to it, and Chairman Mike Rogers, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, he gave a lot of deference to the NSA on this one. He said that, hey, this is what happens in the surveillance world. Friends spy on each other, allies spy on each other. The European Union spying on the United States and is continuing to spy on the United States. France is spying on the United States. So he didn't have any problem with the United States spying on world leaders. And Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, said that knowing the plans and intentions of world leaders is a basic tenet of surveillance. It's surveillance 101. So the sort of outrage you saw yesterday on the other side of Capitol Hill in the Senate with Senate Intelligence Committee Chairwoman Dianne Feinstein, when she found out about this program of spying on world leaders, didn't exist on the House side here, where Chairman Mike Rogers seemed to suggest that this is completely fair game and something that the NSA should be doing.
Very interesting. Well, it seems like right now there are questions over when and how much the White House knew about this surveillance. But what about the Congressional Intelligence Committees, which are in charge of oversight? Does it seem like they were aware?
Well, there's a question when it comes to the intelligence committees, too, over when they were notified. Chairman Mike Rogers suggested that the committee knew about this based on the National Intelligence Priority Framework, this kind of giant report that the Intelligence Committee and the White House gets that goes through the priorities of the Intelligence Committee. But other members of the committee pushed back. Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and Congressman Adam Schiff said, hey, this committee didn't know about it. They asked the NSA why they didn't know, why they weren't informed about these programs, which led to this confrontation between Chairman Mike Rogers and Congressman Adam Schiff over whether or not the committee actually knew about the program to spy on world leaders. Here's the clip.
Well, I'd be interested to know, Mr. Chairman.
We would be happy to take you down to the committee and spend a couple of hours going through mounds of product that would allow a member to be as informed as a member wishes to be on sources and methods and all activities of the intelligence community under the National Intelligence Framework.
Well, I would just say, and
I just think we need to be careful about what we're talking about, but I think it's disingenuous to use the classification.
Well, and I think it would be disingenuous, Mr. Chairman, if you're suggesting we have information if we don't have it.
Because that was a very public and a very embarrassing dust-up on a House Intelligence Committee where you have members debating what they knew about and when they knew it. And this is a committee that we're told is providing oversight on the NSA. And given what we heard from Senator Dianne Feinstein yesterday, it would seem to suggest that Chairman Mike Rogers didn't actually know about it if his counterpart in the Senate didn't know about it, and that neither intelligence communities were fully briefed on this program that authorized spying on world leaders.
Well, that was political commentator Sam Sachs on Capitol Hill. Thank you.